Hi, I'm Michelle Finneran of DPS Group, a global consulting, engineering, and construction management company serving high-tech industries worldwide. And I would like to welcome you to this roundtable discussion in honor of International Women in Engineering Day. We have a tremendous panel here, so without further ado, I would like each of our participants to introduce themselves, and then we'll move on to our discussion.
Hi, my name is Khadija Mwazem. I'm a process engineer at DPS. I have 5 years experience through design and commissioning qualification, and I am based in the Cork office.
Hi, I'm Sandra Baschamp. I'm Director of Engineering in the Kansas City office of DPS. I've been a licensed mechanical engineer for 20 years, and my degrees are in architectural engineering, and I have a master's of science.
Hi, my name is Emily Heffernan. I'm the U.S. Director of New Process Technologies with DPS Group. I'm based in our Cary, North Carolina office, but I am a central resource for the company, and I support all of our U.S. offices on novel therapies projects such as cell and gene therapies. I have over 20 years of experience, and all of it is on the process engineering side for life sciences companies.
Hi, I'm Laura Murphy. I'm working for the DPS Dublin office with the ATG group, EPCM. I'm working for a semiconductor client at the moment. I'm the design manager for tool install. I've been working in the industry for 10 years. I graduated in 2010 as an architectural technician, and I have been enjoying a career with DPS ever since.
Hi, my name is Ans Westerink, and I'm the process department manager in the Leiden office for DPS. Of course, I'm a process engineer from background, and I've been doing that for the last 37 years.
Hi, I'm Lola Madajusmi. I'm a process engineer here at the Cork office with DPS, and I have a degree in chemical and bioprocess engineering, and I have about 5 years of experience.
So I'd like to ask the panel the first question: how or why did you choose engineering as a career path or area of study?
At school, I was totally a beta. So yeah, it was more or less obvious that I would end up in a beta study, and chemicals was most interesting for me. So that's why I started chemical technology, and from there, then it's a pretty natural development that you end up in process engineering, which is, to my opinion, still very interesting and always new things.
I suppose for myself, it was slightly different. My father worked in construction, and I always had an interest in working with him, out in the shed and things like that. And I started looking at like what I was interested in, and it always seemed to be problem solving and fixing things like that. So whereas I wouldn't be coming from an engineering point of view, I started looking into architecture and architectural technology. And then from that, I started working with DPS, and my career just developed from there. So how I got into it might be slightly different, but I soon discovered that there are a lot of similarities there. And where I am at the moment, I'm managing a team of designers and engineers, and there is crossover. There is a lot of similarities there.
For myself, it was a bit of I suppose you could say, last minute decision. So all throughout secondary school, I was very interested in physics and maths, and both of which were taught by the same teacher. And when in Ireland here, when you get into sixth year, you have to fill out what's called a CAO, which is basically just a list of what you want to study in college and which colleges you want to go to. So I knew I was very passionate about physics and very passionate about maths, and I hadn't even considered engineering as a career option until my teacher, who I'll always remember, said to me, "Well, why don't you go down this route?" So when I decided to do that, then it was the best decision I ever made because I fell into it and I just loved it from there.
And for our next question, tell me about a time when you may have questioned where you were in your engineering career or if you were on the right track.
For me, this happened just as I graduated college and started interning in my first process engineering role. I found that number one, it was a huge cultural shock, and also the learning curve from learning what they teach in college to now being submerged in everyday process engineering work. I found that it was very hard to kind of get up to speed, and everyone around you is so much more knowledgeable and so much more experienced than you are on the processes that are going on. So I found that very hard, but it really took um, someone that was maybe 2 years more experienced than me to encourage me and to really let me know that they have gone through what I was going through at that moment in time.
Lola, did you feel like it was a challenge because it was hard to ask questions, or were there other women around you in that culture shift?
On the project that I was working on then, there were no women. I was the only woman, so that was um quite intimidating at the start. It's not intimidating now. I kind of like have kind of been accustomed to the environment that we're in now, so it's fine. But then being the only girl there and being the youngest there and being the least experienced, it just compiled on each other and kind of knocked on my confidence a bit. Like I would say in sixth year, I was more confident in my abilities and doing assignments in college and everything. But coming here and everything being new, um, like even the smallest of tasks was new, and I was kind of self-conscious and second guessing my process engineering work in that aspect. That was kind of the worst of it all, kind of the confidence level, not even the process engineering skill that I had. It's just building my confidence was a loss.
I try to be really conscious of that when working with onboarding new hires and talking to females as they're coming in. I think we're our own worst critic, and having that key mentor, whether it be female or male, it's just the ability to ask questions and realize that we're all in a learning environment. But I truly do think that women attracted more women because we feel like we're probably having similar life experiences. And I felt very blessed in my career because while I didn't work with a lot of women, my boss was very supportive. So when I probably questioned it the most was when I had had my first child. She was 7 weeks old, and I'm leaving her at a daycare, and I'm just, crying because it's the hardest choice I've ever made. I feel like it's the right choice. And my coworkers were all very supportive. They gave me my space. They encouraged me every day. My boss was very much into flexibility, and that just translated throughout my career. There were multiple times in my career where my personal life presented a challenge, and I always knew I could go sit in his office. He would listen to what was going on, and we would work together to come up with creative solutions so that I could pursue my career.
To my opinion, that is not only about having a female boss but an empathic boss. I think that is, or manager, that is the most important, because if I look at the young people entering our office at the moment, the only thing that I really can do for them is make sure that they have someone in their own project in the same department that they can ask free to ask questions, and also will get the support in the project that they need, because it is a massive change from being in college to being in a working environment. And that's all because in the first year I had one very experienced person, and he took kind of care for me like I was his daughter. I was even younger than his daughter, but that was the way that he incorporated me. The first 5 years I've been a cost engineer, which is more an art, I think, than an engineering than an engineering ability. So how could I defend a cost estimate as a 23 or 24-year-old young female to a very experienced manager? And that was all because I had this support from this very senior cost engineer who really gave me the confidence that I could do it. And that's what has been with me all my life. And I always have that as a lead for, what is the right word? For getting young people on board, and also people who are new in the projects.
Yeah, I think confidence is almost half the battle. Like, for women, it's a lot harder than, this is generalizing, but for women, having that confidence, especially at an early stage, is a lot harder than guys coming into engineering, I would say.
Yeah. Many people think engineers sit in their offices and make calculations all day. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about your job?
I think that engineering is a really diverse field, and that's one of the reasons why I chose it. in particular because I really wasn't sure what type of career I wanted after college. But I knew that engineering was a very valuable career. It taught you a great skill set, and no matter what career you chose, that would be useful. Um, and so there are engineers that do sit in their offices all day and do calculations, but there are also engineers that are out in the field in different industries like tech and life sciences, like we work on at DPS Group. So I really think it's the skill set that you learn in college, the problem solving, the creativity. That's what you take with you throughout your career.
And I think just to add to that point as well, it can take you anywhere as well. That's one thing that opened up a lot of travel opportunities for me. I've traveled the world with DPS and with my job, and I think that was one thing I wasn't really aware of when I started, that there are so many travel opportunities as well, across the world, that engineering can bring you pretty much anywhere.
And for me, I think it was surprising how much you have to be able to communicate your ideas and really communicate with other people. I feel like I always tried to suppress emotions because I didn't want to come across as an emotional female. And what I found is that really for genuine relationships with your clients, with your coworkers, you have to recognize your emotions and you have to reflect those back. So if you see someone's upset, you have to address the fact that they're upset. So while we all would prefer to send an email or keep our head down, the ability to communicate, which is something you gain with confidence as you progress in your life, is a key part of engineering, just like it is with any other service provider. So communication is probably the most effective tool, and it's probably the hardest thing to learn.
What is it like to be a woman in engineering? Do you feel that your gender gives you a different perspective and experience from your male counterparts? Are there advantages?
I think there are. When I moved on from the first cost engineering job to the process engineering job, the remark that I got is, I hope that the next cost engineer is a female again, because you bring another atmosphere to the team. I cannot experience that because if I'm there, there is a female. So for me, I cannot judge that. But I've heard that many more times that having female in your team makes the team more diverse, and also adding the other layer of communication again. You don't have to always wear your, say, poker face. You can also show that you're upset by things that happen. And I think that improves the dynamics.
I've had a similar experience as Ons. So I did, for a portion of my career, I focused very heavily on simulation and computer modeling. And eventually I decided to stop doing those types of projects. And the person that led that group at the time said that he hoped he could find more women, simulation engineers, because he thought our natural organizational skills just really led to the most efficient and successful projects for that type of computer work.
Yeah, the same. I had a client actually ask if our company had a grant for hiring women. And I hadn't even recognized until he asked me that question that every lead engineer on the project was female, because I was just so used to being surrounded by females. And I mentioned it to my boss, and it was the same way. He was specifically looking for female engineers and architects because we had been so successful leading teams, staying organized, and honestly just trying to shove it all into an 8-hour day because we didn't have more than 8 hours to work on the project.
I think that's why diversity is such a beautiful thing, because the more women and people from different types of backgrounds that you have in an organization, the more different ways of thinking that you have to approaching problem solving. So you're naturally going to have a lot more solutions on the table. So I think the more women in engineering and just the more diversity in workplaces, the better.
What advice would you have for girls and young women thinking about pursuing a career in engineering? What kinds of practical experience should they have? What technical skills should they learn? And what areas of study should they focus on?
I know for myself, for the Irish curriculum, just before going into college, I was really into the sciences and the maths, biology, chemistry, and physics. Maths. I was awful at the languages, even though I'm not recommending that. You need communication in engineering. But yeah, as long as you have a problem solving mind, you're inquisitive about things, you like piecing things together, maths, physics, and chemistry would be the subjects that I would recommend you study for engineering.
I think my advice would be a little bit more broad, and it would be to have an open mind and to not say no to opportunities, especially when you're very early on in your career. It's really beneficial to work with as many people on as many different projects, gain as many new experiences as you can, especially when you're younger and you're able to travel and to, do things that you might not necessarily be able to do later on in your career. And I think that'll really help figure out where your passion lies and help drive your career.
I think you should maintain that attitude because after, I think, 30 years, I got the opportunity to travel. And still, yeah, then the opportunity comes back and it gives you wonderful experiences that you didn't have before. So, yeah, there's something new every day, as long as you're open to it.
I would say never be afraid to ask questions. I think sometimes people can be afraid and they don't want to seem like they come across like they don't know something, and people can be very afraid to ask questions. But I would always encourage anyone to ask questions, anyone from my team. I ask questions every day. I ask questions of my team. Um, I have a lot of people on my team that are the experts in certain areas. So I'm not an expert in every single area, but always ask questions and be open to learning and be open to what other people have to teach you as well. So that would be my advice.
And don't shortchange yourself. Don't be afraid to try something because it's challenging or new. Engineers aren't always about math and science. Even if that's not your passion or you don't have an A plus in that class, if you have an interest, you can achieve it. It does take hard work, but there's nothing holding you back. There's nothing you can't do. So don't be the thing that holds you back.
Just to add to what Sandra said there, is confidence. Because I do think that I think if you have a passion, if you want to be an engineer, you can be an engineer. And even if you consider yourself not someone who can think, can enjoys problem solving, you can train your mind to do that. You can train your mind to do anything as long as you, like all the other ladies here have said, believe in yourself and put in the work. So there's no thing that's not possible for you.
And I think the other thing is mentorship. Just like all of us are sitting here today, we would love to talk to young ladies, answer questions. And I think you'll find that throughout the industry. It's your teachers, it's parents. It's like Emily said, the more people you are exposed to, the more you will find opportunities for mentorship. And those people are what will support you in this adventure.
Thank you all for your informative and insightful answers, and especially for your participation in this panel discussion as we celebrate International Women in Engineering Day.